Goes in podcast. Big up Reluctant Gamer. Big up to Sham. Big up for coming on, guys, as usual. And so obviously my player spotlight that I do, I'm gonna try and do it every week, and this brings us to two strikers in the Premier League, two of the strikers that are regarded as two of the best, probably not just in the Premier League, but probably in Europe. I think if you're looking at bar Lewandowski and Harry Kane from them strikers, I think you're looking at the next two that everyone talks about as the two best, and you're probably looking at the likes of Erling Haaland and Alexander Isak. Big up Reluctant Gamer. So who is the better striker, guys? Between Erling Haaland and Alexander Isak. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go through the numbers quickly. Big up DXR. So if we go through the numbers, and then obviously we're going to debate who is the better striker, And from what I looked at, obviously this is just based in the Premier League, So obviously both players have been there, I believe, 3 seasons now. And we're going to go through the numbers, and obviously we're going to discuss who we think is the better striker, So if we start off with Alexander Isak, so again, Isak and Haaland very, very similar, in terms of the ages. So Isak, 25 years of age, made his debut at 16 for AIK in Sweden. And guys, if anyone remembers, big up to Will. If anyone remembers, guys, Alexander Isak used to be at Borussia Dortmund. So when he left AIK, he went to Borussia Dortmund, and I think he was at Borussia Dortmund, I believe, when Lewandowski was there, and obviously he couldn't get game time, and obviously made his way to Real Sociedad from there. So if anyone remembers, Isak used to be at Borussia Dortmund, and again, Borussia Dortmund do get some strikers at their club, So, but yeah, Isak made his debut at 16. For Sweden, he has 21 goals in 62 caps. I think a player of his quality probably should have slightly more goals, in my opinion. But to be fair, 21 and 62 is average, His goals in the Premier League, guys. So 2022, he scored 10. And then, as you can see, every season he's getting better. So 2023, 21, and then this season, 23 goals in the league. So in total, 54 goals in 85 appearances with 9 assists, which makes it 63 GA in 85 Premier League games. So he's averaging just under a goal or assist a game, which to be fair is decent, And again, I think with Isak, I think he's only gonna get better, and obviously the stats do prove that as well, So season by season he's getting better with numbers, so you'd expect that to continue. And if we look at Erling Haaland, again, Erling Haaland's a year younger at 24. Again, made his debut at 16 for Molde before going on to Salzburg, obviously to Borussia Dortmund, and then obviously now on to Manchester City. Again, just like Isak, 3 seasons in the Premier League. But the difference is with Erling Haaland, which is actually weird. Big up to Agnes 14ish. Big up to Daniela Iacona as well. Big up to Sham. What's actually weird with Isak is that, not Isak, with Haaland, is that his numbers are actually reducing season by season, which to think that is mad. Because obviously he set the benchmark in 2022 for 36 goals. And then 2023, 27 league goals. And then obviously this season with injury, 21. So him and Isak are actually doing it the other way around. So Isak's getting better as the seasons go on with numbers. And Haaland, madly, you would think, the numbers are reducing as his seasons go on. But I think in Haaland's case, you would say the numbers that he's set, first of all, 36, as I said, is ridiculous. So he's only naturally going to drop off anyway. But as I said, it's a bit weird that him and Isak have it the other way around. And Erling Haaland is averaging a goal or assist a game. Just over 1.5, I think it was. So a goal or assist a game. with 100 GA in 95 appearances. So Erling Haaland, 84 goals in 95 appearances with 16 assists. And again, Haaland's not someone that we look at for assists. I think Isak is someone that will have more assists than Haaland, you know. Obviously, it shows at the moment that Haaland's got more assists, but 100 GA in 95 appearances is ridiculous, you know. And if you look at his record for Norway, 40 goals in 41 caps, you know. So, again, it's quite clear to see that in terms of numbers, in terms of goals, Erling Haaland is just an absolute goal machine, you know, and has been throughout his career. You know, if you look at Dortmund as well, you know, the short period of time he was there, you know, absolute goal machine. And then obviously taking it to another level with Manchester City. And then again with Isak, Isak's getting the numbers, probably at a team that you would say doesn't create as many chances as what Man City do for Haaland. But Isak's numbers are still decent. And as I said already, he can only get better. And I think he will continue to get better and better. And again, these guys are at the peak years, I would say, for strikers, you know, in terms of, you know, I think going into your prime as a striker, you're probably looking at that at the ages of like 27, I would say. But these guys, I think, you know, you could arguably say they're still away from their peak. But, you know, I think at 25 and 24, you know, these are two of the best strikers you would say right now in Europe, you know. So again, the numbers backs it up for Haaland massively. And not as good as Haaland, but Isak, you know, he can be looking at his career at Newcastle, you know, and be very satisfied with that. And as I said, will only get better. Who do I think's the better striker? For me, I mean, if we go through what both strikers offer, you know, so I'm going to say the better striker for me, I think, is Alexander Isak. And I'm going to go through why. For me, Isak in terms of his link play, big up Exedra. Isak in terms of his link play, you know, in terms of his touch, his technique, I do think he excels in touch, technique, and his link play over Haaland. You know, I think Haaland's strengths are, you know, on the shoulder, running in behind, and obviously his goal scoring and his physicality, which I think his physicality is obviously is an advantage over Isak. But I think in terms of, you know, playing with the back to goal, you know, linking the play, you know, the skill, I do think Isak does excel at him over that, you know. Again, people might look at Haaland and think, you know, Haaland's the better striker because of the numbers, you know. But as I've mentioned previously, you know, he's playing in a team that just purely create for him, you know. And again, I think it's important to recognise as well that if you look at the makeup of Man City's team, Man City have creators all around, and then they have the one pure goal scorer. So, you know, it's about having a balance in the team. And this is why Haaland gets a lot of goals for Manchester City. Even if you look at when he was at Borussia Dortmund, he had the likes of Jadon Sancho, who's a creator. He had Thorgan Hazard as well, Eden Hazard's brother, who was a creator. And then, who else was there? Not Pulisic. I think they had someone else was there. Someone else that was there as well. Oh, Marco Reus, again, who's a creator. So, wherever Haaland's been, especially at Dortmund and Man City, he's had pure creators around him, which means that he's the main goal getter, you know? And then if you look at Isak, for instance, he's got Anthony Gordon, Harvey Barnes, who are more wingers, who are more creators as well. And then you've got Jacob Murphy on the right-hand side. Again, you would say he's more of a creator. So again, it's important that we understand that if there was wide forwards in either team, you probably see the numbers for both players reduce, you know. And again, these are the kind of things that people don't really look out for, because there's a reason why these guys get numbers, you know. I'll give an example. If United had if Man City had a forward in their team that was a wide forward that was looking for numbers, Erling Haaland probably wouldn't score as much as he has done, you know, because, you know, if you've got wide forwards that are shoot first players, you know, in theory, your striker isn't going to get many chances and won't excel at the numbers as much as a goal hungry striker with creators around him would, you know. And this is important with players like Haaland and players like Isak, you know. And as I said, if you look at the likes of Savinho in Man City, he's a creator. You know, Bernardo Silva is a creator. Jack Grealish is a creator. Phil Foden's a creator. You know, even Kevin De Bruyne is a creator. You know, Jeremy Doku's a winger, but he's obviously on the creative side. So if you look at Man City's front line, I think the only player you would say that is probably a bit more goal hungry than the others is probably Omar Mamouche, you know. But again, Haaland has pure creators around him, which allows him to be the main goal scorer. And again, be something different that they've got in their team, you know. But what I look at, as I said, is who makes the team play better. And although Haaland is a main goal scorer, you know, he doesn't necessarily make the team better, you know, because there's been times when I've been watching Man City and he's out of the game a lot of the time, but then he might pop up with a goal, you know. So as a whole, he's not going to make the team function, you know, as well as it should do. Whereas I think with Isak, what I'm trying to say basically, if you put Isak in Man City's team, he might not get the same numbers as Haaland, but he'll make the team all round better, you know. And again, these are the kind of things that people need to be aware of, you know. Not because someone comes in and is going to score a bucket load of goals, that automatically makes them, you know, indispensable. I think it's about who makes the team better. And for me, Isak makes them 100 times better than what Haaland would, even though Haaland does have a ridiculous goal scoring record, you know. But it depends what you want in your team. You know, I'd much rather have a striker that, as I said, is going to link the play, you know, that's going to run the channels, you know, that has a good first touch, can take the ball in a half turn, you know, can create as well, and can score goals. And I think in Isak, he does all those things. I think in Erling Haaland, you know, I think he doesn't do that as well as Isak, in my opinion, you know. But I think definitely two strikers at the moment, you know, at the age that they are two of the best strikers, obviously, in Europe right now. Again, if we're disregarding Harry Kane and Lewandowski because they're slightly older, and then you've got the likes of Osimhen and Gyökeres, who are the next guys that have been talked about. The pool of strikers just ain't there. You know, you got Guirassy as well. You know, he can be put into the conversation. If I look in the Premier League, you know, you got youngsters like obviously Joshua Zirkzee, who's 23, but still needs time to you know, well, he still needs time to show what he's got. You know, top football player. You know, one of the best strikers in terms of his link play and his touch. You know, the numbers ain't really backing it in terms of what Haaland and Isak are doing, but that's to be expected because he isn't that type of player anyway. But he's another guy that will make the team play better. And then I look at who else we got. I look at Ollie Watkins. Again, his overall game for me ain't that great, even though he is a threat. Liverpool don't really have a striker I rate. Don't rate Darwin Núñez. Jota's injury prone. You know, Chelsea, Nicholas Jackson, to be fair. But Nicholas Jackson, for me, is not in that top tier. I think he's in a tier just below the likes of... I think he's in a tier in terms of numbers below Osimhen and Gyökeres. But in terms of his all-round play, I think he can be in the conversation, personally. And then we've got the likes of, again, John Duran's in Saudi. You got Lautaro Martinez and Marcus Thuram. You know, I'm not really massive fans of them, you know. And guys, if there's any other strikers you can think of, you know, because I'm telling you now, it just shows you the pool of strikers just ain't there. Just ain't there, man. And, you know, it's one of the main problems, but it is what it is. But guys, let me know what you think. Who do you think's the better striker, Erling Haaland or Alexander Isak? You know, as I said, two players at a similar age, you know, and two players right now that are the two best strikers in the league. But who do you think's number one? Lumi Rain has mentioned Jean-Philippe Mateta. Again, Jean-Philippe Mateta deserves a massive mention, guys, because I think since Oliver Glasner has come to Crystal Palace, I think only Salah and I can't remember what it is, but I think it's only Salah and Haaland, I think, only have more goals than Mateta since Glasner's come to the club. You know, and today you're going to see, again, Man City versus Crystal Palace in the FA Cup final. And the two strikers, Erling Haaland and Jean-Philippe Mateta. So can Mateta shine? You know, and again, if he does shine this game, it's only gonna create further interest in Mateta this season. So, but yeah, I'm gonna go through some of your questions, guys. But big up yourselves. Again, we've only got 7 likes, so if it's your first time in there, make sure you smash that like button and obviously help my channel grow. And then again, guys, make sure if you haven't subscribed to my channel, make sure you do. I think I'm only 3 short of 1,020. So yeah, big up yourselves if you do enjoy the content. So DXR says, I think Isak technically is better. Maybe, I don't know. Yeah, for me, Isak is better technically. And as I said, I mentioned it earlier. If you look at Isak, for instance, if you put him in this Man City team, I don't believe he scores as many goals as probably what Haaland does. Again, I could be wrong, because he has still got, what, 23 goals this season for Newcastle. But he would definitely make Man City a better all-round team than what Haaland gives them, in my opinion. Because, as I said, Isak can offer the link play, you know. Again, he can run the channels. So can Haaland. But he offers the link play. He offers the touch, you know, the skill. And I think he offers just a bit more in terms from the technical side than what Erling Haaland offers, you know. Yeah, exactly. So Sham says Haaland's figures reduced this year because De Bruyne has been injured. And again, this is what I would say. I think, you know, the sign of the top strikers, you know, don't rely on service, you know, because you have to have a striker that can create something out of nothing, you know. And again, if we're saying that Haaland's numbers have reduced because De Bruyne has been injured, I think that's a slight criticism, you would say, of Erling Haaland, because the one thing I'll say about Alexander Isak is that I don't think Isak's numbers would reduce if he didn't have a De Bruyne in behind him creating. So I think Isak would make his own goals, make his own chances, you know. So this is what I'm trying to say. This is why I think Isak is a better striker, because Isak doesn't really rely on service, because he's capable of creating his own chances. Whereas if you look at Erling Haaland, I think Erling Haaland, as you can see by the numbers, and of course he's been injured as well, I think he highly relies on service, and service from De Bruyne as well. So yeah, but yeah, as I said, his numbers have reduced, but he has been injured as well this season. But from his first season of 36, the numbers have reduced each year, which again is still a high league total, you would say. Whereas Isak's numbers are actually, you know, they're improving season by season. So yeah. So Gamer says, I've only been watching Newcastle live, but I rate Haaland scores so many goals. I'd rather have Haaland, but this season Isak is better than him because he's playing with weaker team, etc. Yeah, again, I think this debate, I mean, I can see why many people would say Haaland, because it's the numbers thing. And again, if you're someone that's just obsessed with numbers, then you're going to pick Haaland every time. But the question you need to ask yourself is, what player, regardless of what season they've had, just by looking at their strengths and weaknesses, what player would make your team better? And for me, Isak would make the team play better football. You know, as I said, he might not get the same amount of numbers, you know, but he will definitely make the team around him better. And I think that is what's important. you know. But big up gamer anyway. Exedra says Isak. While Isak's better, Haaland has a superpower in his finishing. Again, this is where I'm gonna probably surprise a few of you. For me, I think Isak's a better finisher than Haaland. I think he's a better finisher. I don't think Haaland's a better finisher than Isak because I think numbers will tell you Haaland is a better finisher, but he's not. He's probably a better goal scorer. But when we look at finishing, and again, it's important for people to realise what the difference is in finishing. So finishing is a variety of finishes. You know, you can have the place shots in the corner, the power shots, the little chips, shooting from range into the corner, power shots, you know, left foot, right foot, headers. So these things are all varieties of finishing, you know. If we're looking at goal scorer, Erling Haaland's a goal scorer in terms of the numbers. But finishing is about what are the types of, what are the different variety of finishes you can do. And looking at both players, I think Isak has more variety to his game in terms of finishing. So if you're saying, Exedra, that you think Haaland's a better finisher, a superpower in finishing, for me, Isak's a much better finisher than what Haaland is, you know. And again, if we're looking at goal scorer, yeah, Haaland's probably a better goal scorer, but Isak's a better finisher for me. But big up, bro, as always. Big up Johnny Bones. Messi's the GOAT, 100%. I agree with that, amongst others as well. So Sham says, Haaland has had games where he's taken less than 10 touches. I prefer watching Isak because of his link-up play. And exactly what I'm saying. So, you know, there's games where Haaland, as Sham has said, has had less than 10 touches. But yet he might end up with a goal. And again, on the stat sheet, that looks good. But on the whole, it's not really that impressive in terms of overall for a team, you know, because I think someone like Haaland, he will get away with that because of the numbers, you know. But how long will he continue to get away with that? Because if Man City, let's say for instance, they're losing a lot of their games, and you got your striker having 10 touches, there's only so long that can go on for, you know. And as I said, having 10 touches as a striker, you know, some people might look at and think, well, the team need to do better of getting their striker involved in the game. But this is what I'm trying to say to you. You know, Isak, for me, is more involved than what Haaland would be. And this is a difference for me. But as I said, Isak's link-up play for me is better, you know. Big up to Lumi Rain, says Chelsea was so bad yesterday, they got lucky. I mean, to be fair, if anyone's seen my match reaction yesterday, and big up yourselves if you did, that was probably one of the worst games I've seen this season in terms of quality. And rightfully so, the piece of quality come from Reece James for his assist to Cucurella. And that was the only bit of quality at goal from both teams. I think both teams were poor. Obviously, Man United, another loss, you know. Ruben Amorim, disgrace again in terms of making this team suffer yet another loss. And as I said, yeah, it was a poor game, poor performances. And Chelsea played their part, you know. But when you've got someone like Reece James, who, again, if Reece James is fit, he's the best right back in the game. He's got that ability about him to create like that, you know. All you had to see was his shot in the first half that hit the post, you know. There's only so many fullbacks that can do that. I think the only other fullback that can do that is probably Trent, because that just relies heavily on technique, you know. But, yeah, was a poor game. So, yeah, Mateta is underrated, you know. Again, Mateta is someone I wouldn't mind Man United signing, but whether Man United are in for him, because there hasn't been any noise, we'll have to wait and see. But, again, man, yeah, he's a very good player. Guys, come on. There's 16 of you in there. Let's make sure we hit them like buttons. Got 10 likes at the moment. Again, if you like my channel, guys, and you enjoy the content, smash that like button and subscribe to my channel at GavGoesIn. And big up yourselves as well for tuning in and contributing to the chat. So, Path says, who do you think will qualify for Champions League for the top 5 Prem? In the top 5 Prem? Good question. So, I think I said this yesterday. I can't remember. But for me, in no order, I'm gonna say Man City, Newcastle, Chelsea, and I'm gonna say Arsenal and Aston Villa. Is that 5 or is that including Liverpool? Well, I think so. No, sorry, that's including Liverpool. Okay, so if we put Liverpool to the side, so that's what 4 other teams, yeah. So the four teams that I think is going to qualify is Man City. If Newcastle beat Arsenal tomorrow, Newcastle qualify, and I think City playing next against Bournemouth. I think they win that. They'll guarantee themselves as well. So I'm going to say Man City and Newcastle. The last 2 spaces. Wait, Liverpool, Man City, Man City, Newcastle. The last 2 spaces, and I think personally, if Newcastle beat Arsenal, Arsenal are in trouble, and Aston Villa got Man United last game, and I think Villa beat United last game. Chelsea got Forest last game, and I think, to be fair, I don't see Forest getting in there. Forest would need to win tomorrow against West Ham, and then they would need to beat Chelsea in the last game. But I'm definitely going to say Man City and Newcastle. I think if Newcastle beat Arsenal, then they'll get in there. Again, if Newcastle draw the game, it'll be touch and go. But I'm going to say Man City, Newcastle, Chelsea, and it's a toss-up between Aston Villa and Arsenal. And the thing is, a toss-up between Arsenal and Aston Villa for me is because Arsenal need to avoid defeat tomorrow against Newcastle. And if they avoid defeat tomorrow, then I'll say they're getting Champions League football, But, and again, they've got Southampton the last game of the season. But I think if Newcastle beat them, it's not a foregone conclusion that they actually beat Southampton, because Southampton got a draw against Man City. So we'll have to wait and see on that one. But I think definitely Man City and Newcastle, I think if Newcastle win, are in the box seat. And then obviously Chelsea away to Nottingham Forest, which I think they could get, I reckon they'll get a positive result. But who knows? It's going to be interesting, put it that way. But big up yourself, Path, anyway. Let me see. So Path says, Haaland can do team play. He said in an interview that Pep asked him to stay up pitch, and he's shown he can dribble and pass. Positioning-wise, Haaland is better than Isak. So, again, big up yourself for your comment as well. So, yeah, even if Pep has asked him to stay up the pitch, again, you have to look at strengths and weaknesses of players, and Haaland's strengths isn't dribbling. His strengths isn't passing, His strengths are in that final third and scoring goals, running the channel, using his physicality. So, again, big up yourself for your opinion. What I would say, Haaland, in terms of his movement, his movement's very good. In the box, his movement's very good. And also, when his team has the ball, he does often make a lot of runs. But I'm talking about purely, the link play side of it. Who makes their team better. And there's no doubting for me that Isak makes Man City a better team all round in terms of, his link play, as I say, the running the channels, the skill, his passing, his technique. All these things for me make him a better all-round player than Haaland. But Haaland does get numbers, which is what people are probably looking at. So, yeah, to say his positioning is better than Isak's, I'm not too sure about that, because Isak has very good movement as well. But yeah, as I said, I think Isak is a better all-round player for me, 100%. Yeah, I think that's a good way to kind of compare them in what Sham said. Haaland is a powerhouse. Isak is slick. Yeah, I think that's a good way to kind of, differentiate both of them players. Isak is more of a smooth player, and Haaland is, 6 foot powerhouse, quick, and obviously again that aids to his prowess of goal scoring. So, but yeah, as I said, they're 2 of the best strikers in the league right now. But if we're looking at strikers from the past, are they better than the strikers from the past? not for me, nowhere near it. But yeah, two guys right now in this era of football that are two of the leading strikers, you would say. Gamer says Isak is better. I hope he continues doing well. Yeah, I agree. Big up yourself. So Path says, I'm a Barca fan. Do you watch Barca? I do. I do. Barca's my second team after Man United at the moment. But as I said, yeah, Barca's my team, man. I've been watching Barca from when they had the likes of Rivaldo, Romario, you know, R9, the real Ronaldo, you know, Patrick Kluivert, Saviola, Pep, you know. They've had some serious players, man, in that team. You know, Philip Koku, you know. Yeah, I've been watching him from day, man. And then obviously the Ronaldinhos, you know, Neymar's, Suarez, Messi, and obviously to the current day now, Lamine Yamal, man. So yeah, Barca's my other team, man. So big up yourself, man. Anyway, so Gamer says he thinks it's going to be Liverpool, City, Arsenal, Newcastle, Chelsea. Oh, so okay, yeah, five teams. Okay. Yeah, to be fair, I mean, I wouldn't really argue with that order. The only thing I would say is that if Newcastle beat Arsenal, then for me, Newcastle will finish higher in the table above Arsenal. You know, because that table is tight. If anyone's got the table in front of them for the points, put that in the chat, guys. Because if we're discounting Liverpool, because obviously Liverpool won the league, you know, they're definitely in there. So if we look at from second down to seventh, which is Nottingham Forest seventh, and then I think at the moment City are sixth, and then you've got Villa and Chelsea in there. There's nothing in it, and the fact that a lot of these teams, I mean, you got Newcastle. I mean, Newcastle playing Arsenal. You know, Chelsea are playing Forest, so they're playing teams in and around them, and it can just go up and down just like that. So, again, this game against, I think, put it this way: if Arsenal avoid defeat tomorrow, Arsenal have confirmed themselves in the Champions League. So yeah, I think that's the best way to look at it. But the fact that Chelsea and Villa both won, they're putting the pressure now on this game tomorrow, because I think the worst thing for Newcastle and Arsenal, really, you would say, is a draw. Because even though Arsenal go to Southampton last game of the season and you think they'll win the game, you know, you never know what's going to happen. And again, Newcastle have got Everton at home, which you expect them to win that game. But again, that won't be easy. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see, man, what happens. But it's going to be interesting for sure. Yeah, do you know what? I'm glad you mentioned that, Gamer. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was going to say the same thing. The fact that Joe Linton's missing, I think that might change things for Newcastle, because as we know with Arsenal don't like the physicality, you know, and Joe Linton is one player that does rough them up, you know. Whether they're going to go, you know, like for like against Arsenal and have three in midfield, you know, I think the obvious replacement to come in instead of Joe Linton is probably Joe Willock, who offers the running power from midfield. Whether they go with Joe Linton in there remains to be seen. But I think the fact that they've got Tonali, Bruno Guimaraes in there, I think them missing Joe Linton isn't a massive miss in the sense of, you know, them playing differently. I just think Joe Linton gets around the Arsenal players and makes it uncomfortable for them. But they're going to have to find a different way. But I think with the likes of Isak, you know, Jacob Murphy, who's had a very good season as well. Gordon will play, you'd expect. And then you've got Tonali and Bruno Guimaraes. And whether they play a Joe Willock in there or a Longstaff, you never know. I think they're going to cause Arsenal problems, you know. And as I said, it's going to be a key game for both teams tomorrow, because both teams tomorrow, whoever wins that game, will secure themselves in the Champions League. So we'll have to wait. Gamer says, I think it's between Chelsea and Aston Villa to qualify. Villa got better matchups. Also, Nottingham Forest, if they can beat Chelsea, that could be big too. Yeah, you know what? I think the fact that both teams won yesterday, obviously, it's going to put the pressure on City and a Newcastle Arsenal game. Now, the thing is, you'd expect City to win their game at home against Bournemouth. Obviously, they got the FA Cup today against Palace. And if they win that, obviously confidence going into the Bournemouth game at home will be there. So you'd expect them to beat Bournemouth because Bournemouth. I mean, Bournemouth have got. I think Bournemouth have got the European places to play for still, actually, as well. Whether it's Conference League or I think Europa. I think Europa might be a bit might be out of their reach, but I think the Conference League might be there for them. So they'll have something to play for. But I think Man City definitely will be fancying their chances to win the game. You know, so yeah. But it's going to be interesting, as I said. So Johnny Bones says, "Can you give us your top 11 of all time?" Top 11 what, Johnny? What play is it players of all time? Because it's a very tough list. Let me know. Is it top 11 football players of all time? Yeah, big up to Reggie likes football. So Reggie says, "Who is your favorite player?" So my favorite player, you know, I get asked this a lot of the time, you know, and it's hard to say a favorite player because I'm leaving out the others basically. So how I like to do it is my three favorite players, I would say. And again, I'm leaving out the likes of Zidane, Hazard, you know, Neymar, Pogba, you know, Paulo Dybala, who I like as well, and a few others. Martial, I like watching play as well. So I'm leaving out them guys. But if I'm to say my three, Adriano as well, if I'm to say my three favourite players, for me is Messi, Ronaldinho, and R9, Real Ronaldo. They're my three favourite players for me. You know, but again, there's so many great players, man, that I've watched throughout the years. Obviously, in football right now, you know, it's very clear that the favourite players to watch for me are Lamine Yamal, Florian Wirtz, Pedri, Rodrigo, Vinicius Junior. Yeah, so at the moment they're the kind of players that I like to watch. You know, Joshua Zirkzee, Amad Diallo from Man United. You know, but yeah, but my three favourite ever are, as I said, Messi, Ronaldinho, R9. So yeah, but guys, yeah, only a quick little stream today, as I said. So yeah, Alexander Isak versus Erling Haaland, who is the better player? And again, if you guys disagree with my opinion on Isak, let me know, because I do think Isak is the better player. As I said, you may think it's Haaland, which is obviously your opinion, but I think his all round game, you know, I think is better, and I think for the next few seasons, because obviously Haaland has signed that massive new contract again. Where will Isak go? Will Isak stay at Newcastle? I think he will, you know, especially if they get Champions League football. And there's been rumours of, you know, Liverpool, Arsenal being in for Isak, Chelsea as well. To be honest with you, there's no way Isak's is gonna go for anything less, I would say, than probably 150. I think if any team in the country wants Isak, you're gonna have to break the transfer fee, because Newcastle are not gonna want to sell him, especially to a rival. And then I think if you look at both players, Isak and Haaland, they're two strikers that you possibly say can go and play for a Barca Madrid. Because I think if you look at the likes of Lewandowski, Barca need a striker that can fill that void, you know, and because Lewandowski is what, 34 now, I think, and eventually they're going to need to replace him, because I don't think there's no one that's coming through the youth. And again, Barca don't really have any strikers coming through the youth that are the main number nines, so they'll go and buy someone, you'd think. And if you look at Real Madrid need a central striker. I know Mbappe's got 40 goals, and again, the stat merchants are going to run away with that. But as you can see, Mbappe for me is not a central striker. He's someone that plays from the left, and unless Vinicius Junior is going to go elsewhere, you know, how that dynamic of Mbappe playing through the middle is going to work, I'm not too sure, especially against the better teams, you know. And guys, before I forget, actually, if you get a chance, what I today watched the Vinicius Junior documentary. So if you get a chance, watch that documentary on Netflix, Vinicius Junior's documentary. You know, some good things in there, guys. You know, and a lot of things that Vinicius Junior went through that, you know, I didn't actually realize that he went through. But yeah, if you get a chance, make sure you watch that on Netflix. You know, it's some good insight into Vinicius Junior's life. And again, you know, massive respect to Vinicius Junior for what he's been through and the fact that he's, you know, carved out a career for himself and again has become a global superstar, man. So yeah, if you guys get a chance, man, make sure you watch that Vinicius Junior documentary on Netflix. So Exedra says, so wait, I'll come back to that one actually. So Gamer says, if we get 3 quality players, Newcastle can dominate the league with City and Liverpool. Yeah, listen, bro. I think I've mentioned to you before, man. They need for me a commanding centre back. I would say a top class centre back, a right winger, and I would say another striker. I would say to compete. Well, let me say it purely like this. You know, I've mentioned it before. If they was to get an Mbeumo or a Cunha into that lineup, if they got Mbeumo and Vissa together from Brentford, they've got a striker that can compete with Isak. They've got a right winger that scores goals. And if they go and get a centre-back and a goalkeeper, as I said, that team there will be competing for the league title. You know, so I think they're 3 or 4 players away that go straight into their lineup, for me, Newcastle, that makes them contenders for the league, for sure. You know. So Zedro says, you know, Gav, the player I want the most for United is Angelo Stiller. Yeah, I've heard of Stiller. To be fair, I don't really know too much about him. You know, I've seen him a couple of times, but I'm guessing he's a central midfielder as well. I think he's a central midfielder. But you guys already heard me say before. I think the one player United need to go and get, you know, because for me, he just ticks every box that United need. He's young, he's left-footed, you know, he's tenacious, he's press resistant as well, he's got a good touch, you know, yeah, he's technical on the ball. I think he has everything to his game as a central midfielder, and that's Carlos Baleba from Brighton. I think if United can go and get Baleba, you know, for me that transforms their midfield, because you're going to have a midfielder who's only, 21, you know, he can be there for the next 10 years, and it'll only get better. And as I said, Baleba is someone, if Man United don't snap him up, he's going to go to either one of the top other teams in the league, or you'll see him at a Barca, a Real Madrid in the future. Because again, if you look at the profile of him and his age, the only left-footed central midfielder in the game, you're looking at Fabian Ruiz and Eduardo Camavinga. And obviously Fabian Ruiz is slightly older, but you know, they're the only real elite left-footed central midfielders in world football that I know of, you know. So, and I believe Baleba can be the next one. So as I said, you know, if Man United are smart, then invest heavily on Baleba, because I think he's going to be the next best central midfielder in the league for years to come, you know. Just look at what Caicedo's doing. You know, again, if you haven't watched my stream from yesterday, Moises Caicedo, as I said, you know, he wasn't nominated for Player of the Season. Yesterday's performance, as I said, I don't think he was great in comparison to how I've seen him play before, but he was head and shoulders the best player on the pitch. And this is a guy that wasn't even nominated for Player of the Season. So, madness. But as I said, yeah, for me, Angelo Stiller, I haven't seen much of him, but the one midfielder I want is Carlos Baleba. And the fact that he's left-footed as well is a certainty, because he adds balance to that team, you know. Sham says, Haaland to Real, Isak to Barca. Yeah, imagine that. Imagine that. And the funny thing is, you know, you can see these things actually happening, but it's going to cost a lot of money. And again, I don't see Mbappe. Can you see Mbappe and Haaland playing in the same team? I mean, it wouldn't be good reading for good football. That's what I will tell you. But I can see where Sham's going with that, because you know, if you're looking at those two in terms of their age profile and in terms of what Barca and Real need, Yeah, you can see why that would be a possibility. So Zedra says we need people who can pass on the team. Exactly, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Baleba should be made, you know, one of the first choices midfielder. I know there's been talk about Edison, and to be honest with you, Edison for me, I do think he's a good player, but Ugarte's already there, and if Ugarte's not there, because Edison's better than Ugarte, but for me, he's just a better version of Ugarte. You know, who can play as well. Don't get me wrong, but I think Baleba's just saying different. You know, if Man United could get Edison and offload Ugarte and get Baleba as well, then that would be great. But again, how that's going to happen, I don't know. So yeah, but Baleba should be made the first choice, and then obviously you got Angel Gomez as well on a free transfer. And imagine that, you got Baleba, formerly of Lille. Angel Gomez, obviously, is at Lille at the moment. So, and if you get Angel Gomez on the free, you know, bringing him back to Manchester, what a free signing that would be. So, yeah, but we have to wait and see what United are thinking, because there's massive issues at this club, man. Massive issues. But guys, listen up. Big up yourselves for coming on each and every time. As I said, you know, if you haven't smashed that like button, we've got 10 likes in there. And again, it helps with the channel to be seen by more people. And again, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, make sure you do as well at GavGoesIn. And I'm not sure yet if I'm back tomorrow. Possibly, I'm not sure yet. I might do a reaction to the Newcastle. Yeah, guys, if anything, I'll do a reaction to the Newcastle and Arsenal game. Yeah, so I'm gonna schedule it today for tomorrow. So yeah, I'll do a reaction to that game. And as I said, make sure you guys are dropping back in and give me your comments. And appreciate you guys for the support as well, as always. And guys, I'm going to be back on Monday as well. So me and Exedra are going to be doing a stream, which I'm going to schedule today. So yeah, big up to Exedra as well for coming on. So yeah, we're gonna get into some football talk. And as I said, if you guys obviously want to join us and give us your questions as well, we'll be doing a co-stream together. And yeah, as I said, make sure you keep supporting the channel, and make sure you check out all my other content as well. So yeah, but yeah, I should be back tomorrow, guys. I said match reaction to the Newcastle and Arsenal game, and as I said, back on Monday as well. And then we've got the live watch along, guys, on Wednesday, Europa League final, Man United versus Tottenham, you know. And as I said, it's going to be a game, guys, that there's going to be repercussions for either manager, you know, and we're going to get into it. So again, make sure you guys are following, and you make sure you guys come in as well. Before we go, just a couple of messages to finish off with. So Edison's a bit overrated for me. Baleba and Stiller would be sick. Yeah, as I said, I've not seen too much of Stiller, you know, but Baleba for me, I'd 100% have him at United, and Edison as well. I don't mind Edison, but personally, I want to see Ugarte at the club if that happens, because Baleba would be my first choice, and I don't see United getting two central midfielders. We need strikers and wingers. Yeah, listen, Zedra, we're gonna get into that on Monday anyway, because this club needs a massive overhaul, you know. But we're gonna get into this anyway. So yeah, I'll be catching you on Monday. But guys, as I said, big up yourselves each and every time, and I'll catch you guys in a bit. Take it easy.